Hi guys, so yeah, I want to react to this video that's on GB News and it is captioned, sorry, not captured, what am I talking about? Is Britain still a Christian country? And it's a debate between, oh I forget their names, but it's a debate between, I'm sure his name's Wrath, I cannot be sure, and this Muslim woman. I got into watching some of it, and some of the things that she said are so bloody offensive that I feel like I have to react. So obviously for copyright purposes, I'm going to be stopping and starting and giving my opinion. I have to do that because you get copyright claimed. And this is just basically an opinion, not necessarily true, and that's all it is. It's all just my own opinion. Alright, I'm going to start.
Wants to suppress free speech to stop causing offence to religions. 1/3 of young British Muslims, 16 to 24, believe you should be put to death for apostasy, for leaving the faith. But we have honour killings.
So I'm not going to react to that part at the moment because it says coming up, alright?
Forced marriage, cousin marriage, child marriage, polygamy. These are all things people are afraid to address because of the issue of Islamophobia.
I'm Emma Trimble and this is GBN Originals. This is going to be one hell of a spicy debate. I'm joined by historian and NCF senior fellow Rafe Hadel-Manku and political commentator Fahima Mohammed. Is Britain a Christian country? Let's take a look at this.
represent कर रही हूँ अपने पाकिस्तानी सारी आवाम को, पाकिस्तानी मुसलमान औरतों को.
Now I'll read you out what she says.
Before she reads it out, as soon as I saw this clip, I'm thinking, like, alright, this debate is about, is Britain still a Christian country? I'm like, why is she showing a random clip from Pakistan or somewhere in the Middle East or somewhere like that? I'm just kind of confused, but you'll see in a minute why.
I'm representing my Pakistani nation and Pakistani Muslim women. I'm very proud wearing hijab. Wherever I go, I will represent Muslim women. In South Yorkshire, I am the first Pakistani Kashmiri mayor. It is a point of pride. I am absolutely privileged, and it is an honour to be in this position.
Allah Azza wa Jal.
All right. So she says, I'm very proud to be representing Pakistan. You're the mayor of Yorkshire. You're not representing Pakistan. You're not a Pakistani politician. Why are you pledging allegiance to Pakistan? If you're the mayor of, is it Yorkshire? Shouldn't your focus be on the people of Yorkshire, regardless of ethnicity or faith? What else did she say? I never thought I'd see this day. Alhamdulillah. This has happened because of Allah, the strength. Ugh. So regardless, it doesn't really matter. I don't care about, like, I don't care, like, that she's pledging allegiance to Allah or whatever. What is a bit weird about this is, like, why is she saying that she's representing Pakistan when she's not a Pakistani politician? I'm so confused at this. Like, when you stand for a seat in British politics, the only people you should be representing are the British people. May they be white, black, brown, just pink, green, I don't know, whatever colour you want to choose. And may they be Sikh, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jew, Drew. You know, there's many different religions. I get that. So so when you're running, that's the only focus is your constituents in the area that you're mayor of. Like, why are you, like, basically pledging allegiance to Pakistan? That's weird to me.
So, Rafe, do you think it is acceptable for the mayor of any British town to say that they are representing a country from anywhere around the world
No.
No, it's not.
other than Britain.
And it's not to directly attack this councillor, this new mayor's reputation. She seems to be a very decent person from what I can see. But what we're seeing is the disintegration of the United Kingdom, and increasingly it's being replaced by a United Nations. This country is far from becoming socially cohesive through diversity. Diversity is creating ethno-nationalist silos around the country, and that's deeply destructive to our nation. And we're seeing, I'm afraid to say, the sectarianism we associated with Northern Ireland being introduced to the British mainland. Liverpool and Glasgow used to be places where people voted along religious lines. That was thankfully done away with, and yet thanks.
And he's right there. That's very true. In Glasgow, you used to have areas where it was just Protestants and areas that of Catholics, and it would be Protestant leaders that would be elected in the Protestant areas and Catholics in the Catholic areas. So yeah, I'm really glad that's been done away with, because see the amounts of fighting that caused it for both of us. And understand, like, for both of us, both being Christians, with Catholics and Protestants, we're both Christians. Why are we fighting each other? You know, like, we both believe in Jesus Christ. Why are we fighting each other? And it got a lot. It did. It got a lot. So I'm glad that that's over with. But he's absolutely right here.
Mass immigration, we're seeing that re-imported into this country, and of course this.
But this is different. But she's going to say something a little later that is absolutely offensive. Absolutely offensive. But this is like, it's different because it's two basically Christian, we'll say clans, like it's two Christian groups fighting against two Christian groups, you know. You add like a new religion in, such as Islam. It's absolutely different, you know. You're adding. Okay. Let me just play this.
Just follows on from a whole slew of recent other examples of this. Of course, people may remember the Leeds Green Party politician who shouted Allahu Akbar after he was elected.
Yep, I remember
people may remember just now in the recent local elections in Burnley Central East, there was another councillor who was elected on an Islamic agenda and essentially putting foreign cultural practices, wanting to enforce segregation between men and women.
And he's right. The last couple of years especially, we've had people being basically elected under religious and foreign geopolitical reasons, aka Gaza. People who know absolutely fuck all about politics are standing for politics and saying they're doing it for Gaza. And meanwhile, when they were elected, the place where they're representing turns to shit. Because they're just, people only voted for them because they were either A Muslim, and B, because they supported Gaza. Like, case in point, George Galloway, he was one, he's not a Muslim, but he got elected on the just through the fact that he supported Gaza. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. If you're going to run for a seat, especially in Britain, it should be for British issues, i.e. cost of living, the cost of energy, making sure that the roads are good, making sure the infrastructure is good. That kind of stuff. Not what's happening in a country far, far, far a fucking way. It's nothing to do. Their politics has nothing to do with us. While we can sympathise with what's happening in their countries or whatever, our politicians, especially on the council level and our mayors and stuff like that, they shouldn't really be butting into that. Geopolitics and stuff like that is more higher up the level, to do with the Prime Minister and our foreign secretaries and stuff like that, mayors and stuff like that. What? Why are they poking their nose and running on a ticket for Gaza? What?
So we're seeing essentially the creation of a rival culture to British culture.
Yeah,
And it's
exactly.
critically important that we prioritize British culture over minority cultures. And if you really want to be an elected representative, you have to represent all peoples, not
And he's right, we should protect our culture, our heritage, and our shared British values. This is like, I don't understand why people can't seem to realise this. Like, we have 1,000+ years of British history, which is what is known as, aka British, culture, where we have practices and we have practices and rituals, etc., that has came down throughout the centuries. That is all to do with like British culture, and people come here from foreign countries, and we love that. People welcome immigrants like coming to live in Britain. It's nothing to do with that. And they come and they'll integrate, and they'll bring maybe a little bit of their homeland with them, though, but they'll integrate it into British society. They'll then adapt to British culture, the way the British people live. We don't expect people of foreign countries, i.e., like, for example, we'll just use like Pakistan here, for example, to come here and then just bring their culture with them and exclude British culture altogether and live in these little silos like mini Pakistans. Like, if you want to live in a mini Pakistan, just go back to Pakistan. If you're coming to our country, you have to adapt to the way the British people have made their country. You have to adapt to our habitat, the way we live our lives. We don't expect you to turn to Christianity or religion or anything like that. You can have your own faith, it's nothing to do with any of that. It's to do with the fact, like, if you want to live in a culture and you don't want to, like, interact with or have anything to do with British culture, why you even come here in the first place? Move back.
prioritize or seem to be beholden to one particular group.
Fahima, this is harmful to British democracy, isn't it?
Yes.
I think this is democracy at its finest, to be honest, showing that we are not governed by one religion, one faith. And actually, there's strength in that. And the idea that there's a mere presence in office, threatens British values, is very un-British, to be honest. She wasn't, talking.
It's very un-British to basically say that, like, pledge somewhat of an allegiance to Pakistan while you're a British mayor, so in a political position in Britain with a little bit of power or whatever. So yeah, that's un-British. That's un-British. But you're only saying that. I know why you're only saying it, but I'll let you guys figure that out.
To the British public, she was talking to a specific channel, which she sort of spoke in a different language because she's bilingual and she has various languages that she can speak. And yes, she's actually, worked in sort of office for many years as a mother of 3 daughters. I feel there's a double standard here that we need to call out. On one hand, people complain that Muslim women are oppressed, don't work, don't contribute to society. And then when there's a Muslim woman that does break those barriers, becomes a mayor, leads charities and serves her community, suddenly that's a problem too. Let's be honest, the issue isn't oppression, it's discomfort with a confident Muslim woman in public life. She is representing the British people. She was elected in 2021 by her constituent, and she's also talking to her constituent, which is also predominantly in that area, which is over 90%, which is British English people that are there.
Okay, if she's talking to her constituents that you're saying are 90%, so obviously these have to be 90% I can only assume because I don't know many people that speak Urdu. I'm positively said that's the language that she was speaking. So 90%. So basically, what you're saying is, so she's speaking to 90% of her constituents. British people don't speak Urdu. So my point here is that either these people it's kind of weird because if you've got a constituency that's of mixed origin, i.e. people from all over, then why not speak in British? Because then British speakers don't understand it. So she's speaking to like the Muslim, 90% Muslim majority that voted her in. Which means these people, A, either haven't bothered their arse to learn English, or B, she's trying to hide us. She tried to hide this from British speaking people because we don't speak that language, that she's basically pledging somewhat of an allegiance to Pakistan.
Yes, now she's been elected by her peers, but it shows that at the end of the day, that this is real democracy. And we are having to...
No, democracy is when you use the language, the cultural language that is predominant in that country, and you're in a mayoral seat, okay, where the predominant language is English, then why are you speaking in a foreign language that only certain percentages of your constituents would even understand what you're saying? That's in a way, you know, like that's a bit like, it's a bit like segregationist in a way. I can't lie about that. It's a little bit segregationist. So, like I said, she's either doing this because A, these people haven't bothered to learn English, which is strange considering they've came to the UK to build a life, and you know, and we expect people who come and live here to adapt to the British way of life. Or B, she hasn't wanted English speaking people, because there's many different races in in Britain that only speak English. So she either hasn't wanted the English speaking people in her constituency to see that basically her affiliations are pledged between, you know, the Pakistan and her Muslim community in Yorkshire, which is strange. It should be all our constituents she should be caring about. So this should have been done in English. Okay? Was she hiding it? I don't know.
You know, understand that when we want integration, it needs to be allowed in whichever form it is, and it's not taken away from British values or culture itself.
This surely is the opposite of integration. Ray, Fahima said there that we're not governed by one religion, but it seems as if the people of South Yorkshire are being quite explicitly governed by somebody in this initiative.
They are. This woman just said it. She says 90%. That's the number she used, not me. 90%. This was a message to 90% of her constituency. So, aka like 90% of the Muslim people who... I don't even know what to say about this. This is unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
Address has quite clearly privileged not just their religion, but also a foreign country. I mean, the address is in Urdu, of course, so it's excluding English people, English speakers who don't understand Urdu. But as Fahima said there, that you know that she's addressing a specific demographic. It seems that the demographic that she's addressing here are Pakistani Muslims and not her constituents.
And that's the crux of the issue.
Exactly, that's what I was trying to say. She's focusing more on Pakistan and her Pakistani Muslim constituency, not the rest of them.
And this isn't about the fact that she's a Muslim woman. You know, I've been equally vocal about people like, Iqbal Muhammad, the independent Muslim vote MP, who has defended cousin marriage, for example. But what we are seeing essentially is the retreat of politics down to ethno-religious lines, and that's deeply divisive for any multiracial society as we are. And as I say, the politics of sectarianism are becoming very much a threat to the security of this nation, to the cohesion of this nation. And it's not also to say that these politicians are necessarily extremists in and of themselves, but by catering to one group and by seeming to be their representative in politics, they're displaying mixed loyalties, and they're prioritizing, obviously, their Muslim communities. And it's always in an uncritical way. There's no willingness there seemingly to tackle the dark side of diversity that often finds itself in those communities, the failures of integration, and they essentially enable extremism and segregation and sectarianism and division. The people they represent don't want to be part of Britain, it seems. They want to essentially create a mini version of their homelands. And particularly in the case of this councillor, for example, she's from Rotherham. Rotherham, of course, was at the centre of the rape gang scandal, the greatest scandal of the 21st century. And you would think if she wants to be such a great representative for the peoples of her region, the Pakistani Muslim population, she would have spoken out vocally to distance.
Never even thought about that. Yeah. Why wouldn't she speak out and distance herself away from the rape gangs, the Pakistani rape gangs, and say this is like not what's representative of the Pakistani community and their religion. So yeah, he's got a fair point there.
Her community from those atrocities, and yet I found no evidence whatsoever that she's made even one statement about that. And I would think the fact that she has chosen to stay silent on that issue, in essence, to help cover up and protect the Pakistani Muslim communities, reveals that actually when push comes to...
I'll tell you why she's silent on the issue, though. There's a YouTuber called Lubna. Sorry if I've said... Or Lubna. Sorry if I've said her name wrong. Who is a Pakistani woman. She was looking in... She referred to herself as a Muslim, and she's a fantastic YouTube channel. But what she did was she created her channel, and it was to, in her own words, she said it was to call out there wasn't enough people calling out the bad apples in her community, so therefore she wanted to do that. She created her channel to say, like, not all Pakistani people are like this, but it should be upon, like, our community to call out the bad apples when there are people like this in our own community. Like, it should be responsibility of Christians if there was, like, a mass, if there was a gang of Christians going around killing people, yeah, it should be our responsibility to condemn it and stand up and say, yeah, you're not doing this under the name of Christianity. No way. Absolutely not. And we condemn you, and you're nothing to do with us. But she got, when she done this, so my point to her is she's now had to go into hiding. She's had to move. They had to start a GoFundMe for this woman because she's a single mum of 2. And she's had to go into hiding. She had to delete all her videos. She came on video crying her eyes out because Muslims, Pakistani Muslims of her own community, threatened to kill her. She was terrified for her life. So she came off YouTube and is now living in hiding. What a disgrace. And she didn't even criticise Islam. She didn't say anything negative at all about, she was a Muslim herself. So she's not going to, like, criticise her own religion. All she was doing was criticising bad apples in the community, calling out, like, the rape gangs. And for that, she got the death threat. So, I understand maybe like that's maybe why she's not. But if you're in a mayor position, then I think that's your job. You know, no, I don't think that. I know it. I know this Lubna, who's now in hiding now. She wasn't a mayor or anything. She wasn't in any position of power. This person is. So it is. If you're in a position of power where you can affect change, yeah, it is your priority to call out these kind of things.
Of her priority and the priority of people like her isn't the British people.
My point there. But she knows she's gonna get death threats and probably won't get elected for her next term if she says anything about it. That's why she's not said anything. Because they're not calling out their own. They're not.
The first priority is the Pakistani Muslim community.
Fahima, what do you think of those online who have been commenting on this video saying that she's a colonizer and that this is Islamic colonialization of British towns?
I think there's a distinction for people that speak like that, and there's definitely a terminology for it. Because again, it's not just one person's responsibility to call certain things out. We always only report on one side.
As if you're the mayor, love. I'm sorry. If you choose that kind of job and you choose to be the mayor and your town is famous now, famous worldwide for British and Sikh girls, hundreds and thousands of them being mass raped by Pakistani Muslim rape gangs, then no. And it's your community. So say that this is our community. These people, we condone this. We don't want these kind of people in our community, and they are nothing to do with us. So yeah, I'm sorry, love. It is her responsibility.
Over 200 mosques that actually condemn the grooming gangs. There were many Muslims that speak out, but we're not actually addressing that. It's not her responsibility.
Bullshit. Like I said, aka just the channel I just mentioned, Lubna, who tried to call it out and then had to delete her channel, go into hiding because she got threatened with death from Pakistani Muslims.
To speak out and find evidence. She's been working within the community for domestic violence, for women of sexual abuse. There's a lot of things that she's done that's got her to where she is right now. We're not addressing that, and we're just making a lot of assumptions because of a particular faith. When we have the Polish, when we have the Scottish, the Wales, also yes, it's part of Britain, but they also talk about their community and they actually express themselves, whether it's in.
This is one bit I found completely offensive. She's like, oh, we're only calling it one community, but we have the Welsh and like the Scots and stuff. Love, the Welsh and the Scots helped build this country. We've been here for hundreds, like over 1,000 years. Over 1,000 years. Living alongside our English brothers and sisters. We helped build this country. We have a shared faith. We have a shared culture. We have a shared British history. We have a shared all that. We didn't land here on a boat or however means people got here. We didn't land here and just pop up and decide to like insert our authority over things. No. We've been here. We built, it's the United Kingdom. We helped build it. We didn't just like all of a sudden pop up like a few decades ago. No, we've been here for hundreds of years. You're making out as though the British, the Scottish people and the Welsh people are foreigners. You're tagging us in. Now, we Pakistanis who have came here to maybe get a better life for work reasons, whatever reason. But you're lumping now the Scots and the Welsh in there when we have lived here all this time too. We're not foreigners to this land. This is like our land too. We helped build it. How dare you? How dare you lump Scottish and Welsh people in as if we're like foreigners? Just popped up a few decades ago. out of nowhere, you know, like, where did they come from? Like we fucking came out of nowhere, like the movie Brigadoon. We've been here and we've lived here for hundreds of years. The Celts Scottish people have been here, most of them longer than the Anglo-Saxons, but nevertheless, the English, Welsh, Irish, I say all the Irish, and the Scots have been here for literally hundreds and hundreds and going on over a thousand plus years. Not just popped up out of nowhere. Don't lump us in. That is so offensive. As if we have contributed nothing to the building of the United Kingdom. And I'm not saying that foreigners that have came here have contributed nothing. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying what she said was absolutely offensive, because she just like basically lumped Scots and Welsh people in as if we just came over and colonised and sprouted out of nowhere, like, I don't know, like you never saw us before. Like seeing a Scot was like seeing a fucking unicorn running through a field. Like we were never here. We've been here. We built the country along with the English, Welsh and Irish. Not so much the Irish more built their country, but we've also got Northern Ireland to think about too. Yes, immigrants have contributed to British society, but this isn't hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of this going on. This is a predominantly newer thing. I'll say like, we'll go for like latter 19th century onwards. The Scottish people were here in the 16th century, we were here in the 13th century, we were here in the 12th century, we were here in the 11th century. We're not new to this place, love. How dare you?
Their own language, then there's no uproar and up.
They've just sprouted out of nowhere, like with their own language and stuff. Yeah, the Welsh have got a language, the Scots have got Gaelic, but most people in Scotland, if not about 99%, I would say, maybe somewhere up in the way north of Scotland, up at the very top of, I don't know, like very, very, very top, like places like Nairn and John O'Groats or something. Maybe they still speak a little Gaelic or whatnot up there, but 99.9% of Scottish people speak English. I know we might not sound like we do. We've got a weird accent, you know. Welsh are the same. We've got a very different accent, but so is England. English they've got different accents all over, but we speak English because we have a shared history. Most Scottish people haven't spoken, like throughout Scotland, haven't spoken Gaelic in hundreds of years. Bloody offensive.
I really do think it is a double standard of hypocrisy, regardless of what everyone's saying right now. And it's only because it's attacking, because it's a Muslim woman. I really do feel that, regardless of what anyone says, because she would not be a representative and speaking. Like I said, she was speaking on a particular channel.
It's offensive because like they're only attacking her because she's a Muslim woman, but you're allowed to like say, oh, but they don't attack like the Scots or the Welsh when they basically just popped up and unbelievable. Do you even know anything about, like, why is she even like a political, what is she anyway, a political commentator? Why is she even a political commentator? Because clearly you know nothing about British history. Nothing. Where Rafe is a historian, so she's up against it. And Rafe isn't a white man, you know, he's not, but his family's obviously came here. They have integrated into British society and British culture or whatever, and but like it's great when like other cultures brings aspects of their culture over and they'll add it and make British society even better. Like that's wonderful. Like all the different like culture, like foods. I was trying to say culinary uh, things that have been added into like British society, food, like yeah, foods and celebrations and different, yeah, just many different things that have been added by people who have immigrated here. Like it's made British society better. It has. Like we can't deny that. I thought British food would be pretty bland. Like if we never had, like we've got a great Chinese kind of like community that brought their their cuisine that over, and Indian and even like Pakistan and Africa and stuff. Amazing, mwah, top notch. Their way of like doing certain things that's better, you know, and it's added to British society. We can't deny that. But to just like say that she's being picked, no, she's been called out because she's pledged an allegiance to Pakistan. She's a Mary Yorkshire. She's doing and it's your own words. She's doing these like speeches in Urdu to her 90% Pakistani Muslim voters, and that segregates the English speakers and the other people who she's meant to represent. Ridiculous.
There are different channels that are here. She wasn't addressing the community. When she does address the community, it would be in English and it would be for the British society as a whole. There's no way that she would actually come on there and continue her job if she was only addressing one particular community. It's just not the way.
She has only addressed. You're just like you're speaking in riddles. Honestly, it's like I never ordered a word salad. Take it back to the kitchen. She has addressed only one community when she's speaking in Urdu, which many British people, normal British people, whether they be white, black, Chinese, I don't know, like we don't speak that language. So speak to your constituents in English, where most of us, that if not all, speak English. So like I said before, it's either because A, they do not speak English, or B, she done this trying to hide it, hoping that just English speakers in her constituency wouldn't see this, because they don't know the language. Even the subtitles were in Arabic or Urdu.
Goes. It's just that we, put a lens on just one specific kind of area of somebody, and then we just blow it up.
No, again, if this happened with any other culture that was coming over to Britain and dominating over British culture and basically in a tribal way, speaking to their community and showing affiliation to a country, aka Pakistan, that these communities are for, I would speak out against them as well. I don't care where they're from. This isn't right. If you're a British politician in any way, you should be speaking and making speeches to do with politics. And it's to your constituents, because you said it was to our 90% constituents. If it's to your constituents in any way, it should be in English.
Into saying that it's sectarianism, it's this, that, and the other, when other communities, we talk about it as, cultural sort of like diversity, and we are.
So this is the part I've got to when I press stop, was basically the Scottish Welsh part, which annoyed me. So, I've not seen this from here on in. But I'm wondering, because, she's going on about, diversity, and I wonder when, because this always happens when the Jews are going to get blamed. Let's find out if that happens.
Praising that, but only when it comes to the Muslim community, it is always an outrage and an uproar.
No.
Let's just say, maybe we should just call it for what it is. Britain does not want to be a democracy unless you see white, British people that are there.
Not true at all. Not true at all. There is many different British people. There is not just white British people. We've got hundreds of thousands of black British people. We've got Chinese, people that of Chinese origin, I'll say, of black origin, I don't class them as African British or Chinese British. I just class people as British. Whereas I see like English and Scottish, that's kind of different. That's your ethnicity, you know. So you can be so yeah, I guess you can be African British or whatever, but I don't put people's ethnicity, you know, like on top of where they live. Like that's just weird to me. Like I just think like no, I don't like why choose to see colour? Just see them as a person, you know, like no, I don't want to like live in I want to live in a colourblind society. I don't want to live where the first thing you have to notice about someone is their race. Like no. 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 I want to look at someone and think like regardless of like who they are, it's like, yeah, it's just a British person. Like I've always done. Like most British people have always done. Yeah, you get racists out there, granted. Every country has them. Every race has them. But yeah, you're clutching at straws here.
The forefront. Let's just remember that when it comes to Christianity, this particular country had reform and lots of laws which is against Christianity in the first place. And culturally Christian that people talk about, at the end of the day, that only includes when it comes to opposing another faith or just Christmas and Easter. I have a Bible with me. Tell me how many people actually has one, owns one, or reads one.
Me, love. And this is still a Christian nation built on Christian laws and values. I'm so sorry, but you do realise, just like in Islam, there is different sects of Christianity. And we've got, you're saying like, laws and that have changed, that's not Christian. I happen to agree with that. Yeah, we have Marxist loons that are like running things, and yeah, they have changed things that are not Christian. But why have they done that? They have done that because of woke social justice warrior politics, and they have done that, I think personally, to try and rub out the fact that this is a Christian nation and change it into the fact that it's an even though all faiths are practiced here, but to make it into like this an all faith kind of nation. So yeah, you're right, but it's not done on behalf. So how dare you? How dare you even say that? It's not done on behalf of actual Christian people. We don't vote for these, like, we didn't ask for these things or vote for these things to happen. They're done by some lunatics in the government that we didn't ask for.
It's the faith. That is what Christianity is about. And I'm not even part of that faith, but I respect it. And so there's many Muslim people that are working and doing. They do things exactly according to the law of this land and country.
Then why do we have Sharia, 90 odd Sharia courts in this country? Why? I'm just asking a question. Why?
Elected, they are doing things, not, colonizing, not doing things illegally, not invading. It is with the
rubbish. I had a live stream a few days ago and someone popped on and started saying in the comments, I ended up deleting it because I don't want to offend anyone, but started saying in the comments, Allahu Akbar. I've still got it so I can take screenshots to prove this. Started saying Allahu Akbar, and then he went on to say that we will colonise Scotland and we will change Scotland into a Sharia law country. And I mocked him, saying like, you clearly don't know Arabic, because Sharia in Arabic means law. So you basically just said we will have a law country. It was so stupid. But yeah, so he was droning on about that. So that's rubbish. There is people here, and I've seen demonstrations of many people saying they want to change the UK into a Sharia state, to change our laws to Sharia. We've seen surveys done where high percentages of Muslims have said that they want Sharia in this country. So she's talking utter bullshit.
Law of the land, and there's still a problem. That I do not seem to understand. I really don't.
Nobody.
Then why have Sharia courts in the country? If you're living by the law of the land, why do you need your own laws? Why do you need your own Sharia courts? Shouldn't everything be done under British courts alone? Just saying.
Is denying, of course, that the majority of Muslims in this country are well integrated and are productive members of society. That's to be celebrated. Of course, it's not an overwhelming majority because there is a very sizable minority who hold attitudes, views, and religious extremist beliefs, which are completely abhorrent to our culture. We know from polling, 10% of Muslims in this country identify as jihadists and support terrorism, for example. And
that's disgraceful. Disgraceful. Listen to what he just said there. 10% of Muslims in Britain identify as jihadists. That's frightening, in fact. Absolutely frightening. Especially when you've just had a statement from Iran saying that they're going to activate their sleeper cells in the UK and America. So that's frightening. That even if it's just 10%. That's literally, and you take them into Muslims or whatever that in Britain, yeah, many of them law-abiding, patriotic, but some, yep, but like you said, there's also a sizable amount that isn't. But even just taking that 10%, that means there's hundreds and thousands of jihadis in Britain that would happily chop your head off for saying the wrong thing. That's frightening.
Just had a report out from France, from President Macron this week, talking about the Muslim Brotherhood's entryism into politics, into local government, and trying to...
Where the term Islamophobia came from the Muslim Brotherhood.
Essentially infiltrate French institutions and slowly push them towards more extremism and more tolerance of extremist Islamic policies and beliefs, and to the adoption of Sharia law in local communities as well. We had a similar report out here in 2015. So there is something wrong and deeply worrying about what's happening within large Muslim enclaves. Yeah. And we know that segregated communities of Muslims are twice as likely to be extremist as those who aren't in segregated communities. And we have seen in the last election the politics of Pakistan being imported into Britain. We had Labour MPs cowering in their offices, too scared to leave. We had, arson attacks with constituency office of an MP burnt to the ground. MPs putting panic attack buttons in their rooms because
an MP stabbed to death not that long ago. Manchester bombing, 7/7. Lee Rigby. Tons of there's just tons, and there's so many. Glasgow airport bombing, the hospital bombing, and Remembrance Sunday. I could go on and on and on and on and on.
Of the threat from Islamic extremism, which has become now a political movement. We're seeing it now, of course, with the Muslim vote, etc. That's why this is a very peculiar and particular problem, because Islam also has a political wing as well as a religious wing, and it does pose a threat to the cohesion of this country, particularly, of course, when you see the strife, for example, between Hindus and Muslims as well, as we saw in Leicester. So this is a very...
He's exactly right. Like, you go even around the world, right, and you see, this massive common denominator. All right, Hindus, okay? You have Sikhs, Christians, Jews, Druze, I can't say this word, but those I feel so stupid. As Austrians, I can't say it. I can't remember it at this moment. But just Buddhists. And there's like one massive common denominator. All of us have all had massive Islamist attacks against us. Just look at Congo, Nigeria. Like there's tons in Africa that are never reported, which angers me so much. There's been a 9/11 America, like all them in Britain. France has had the Charlie Hebdo. There was literally Tommy Robinson. I know you can either like him or not like him, but when he was in prison, he said, and it's very like, I don't know, it's frightening to like learn this kind of stuff, but it's not getting into our media. But he said that there was a Ukrainian guy in prison that got beheaded, and he said that they literally used sheets to do it. Can you imagine the pain and the torture that guy? I know he's like a prisoner, but he's still, I guess, a human. Not I guess, he's still a human. So, to be beheaded like that, I've had prison guards with boiling water thrown on them, stabbed in the head. We've had that Abdulaziz guy who threw acid over that mother and her 2 children. Like, the list goes on and on and on. On and on and on. And the common denominator is one problem, Islamic extremism.
Problem, not to mention the corruption that, of course, is linked to a lot of the Red Wall area, the local councils, where we have postal votes, of course. There's a man, Raja Mia, the great whistleblower, has shown how many Muslim communities are actually corruptly faking the votes that are coming on with postal votes. There's a lot of issues here that are linked to the segregation of the Islamic community.
Fahima, surely you can accept that a democracy can't accommodate all cultural diversity, because there are some aspects of certain cultures and the practices and beliefs and traditions of certain communities that are just simply not acceptable for modern Britain. Surely you can accept that there must be some kind of limits on what a democracy can tolerate, that there is a basic British culture to which those who want to participate in democracy and in public office should have to integrate into.
I don't know what you're talking about when it comes to integration, because I see integration just because, people do actually have a certain belief system, which is...
If you see integration, how come GB News just recently went to a town where literally no one spoke English? He tried to interview many people, and not one of them could understand. What all you got of them was no English. Even the shops were all in Arabic or some other language. It just didn't. None of them could speak English. So I don't. You're a contributor to GB News. This was a huge story, so you must have seen that story, unless you're just choosing to gaslight and ignore.
Coherence and cohesion with the actual values of Britain.
That's not integration.
And you just don't like to see it like that because you're seeing it from a particular group. Extremism exists in all different areas, not just in the Muslim. We see the far right rising, whether it's in Europe and in...
I hate this. We see the far right rising. Where? We cannot... there's a small percentage of people that claim themselves far right, like bloody Hitler lovers and stuff like that. But where? What are you talking about? We see the far left rising. That's what we see, not far right. We're told now if you even speak out about the rape gangs that happened and still are allegedly happening, you're far right. So now so it makes you far right now to even speak up about British kids being raped. So I guess that makes me a far right. So I'm the rise of the far right. She's absolutely gaslighting us here.
The UK, but we never speak about that. We also see the rise of Islamophobia. People don't even want to.
We do speak about it because our bloody government, she's absolutely gaslighting us. It's making me annoyed now. Our government continually call us far right. You go to a Unite the Kingdom rally, a rally for Britain, you're far right. You go to an anti-lockdown rally, you're far right. You go to a rally where you don't want British children, may they be, and that's why I've always said I'm going to call out for the white British kids and the brown British kids who were raped by these guys. Far right. So we're the rise of now of the far right, I guess. But and Herr Stalin is always calling out the far right. The mainstream media is always far right, far right, far right. You speak about Trump, you're far right. Speak about anything to do with America at the moment, you're far right. Why are you lying? It's the far left that gets away with everything at the moment.
Recognize that, but I can see right now that there is a fear, as you mentioned last time, of Muslims that are, whether they are practicing more, whether they are building mosques. It's a capitalistic state. At the end of the day, whoever has the more money and they go through the processes, they will have that. And it's within the law again and the rights. You talk about the extremism. Of course, there's extremism. But for me, no extremism exists in any faith, even if it's hijacked. Right? And at the same time, we are not addressing...
What? No. No, I know she's just lying. She's absolutely lying. If there isn't you're saying so, no extremism lies in any faith. Therefore, what you're saying is, it's just basically Muslims that are doing it. So if there's no extremism in Islam, then all these terror attacks are just done by Muslims. That's what you've just said there. Whereas most, people don't want to do that. They don't want to. I don't want to do that. I have people who are friends who are Muslim. So I will say it's the people who are extremist that do these attacks. I won't say that there's no extremism in Islam. There absolutely is. But you saying there isn't is you basically, and you as a Muslim woman are basically just saying there's no extremism. So therefore you're saying, and you know more about your community than I do. So what you've basically just said there is that, sorry, I have to put this charger in, is that it's not extremists doing this, it's regular Muslims. You said that, not me. Don't shoot the messenger.
Real issues of the fact that the way in which the law is here, the legislation, and it is actually inclusive of all faiths. There's no such thing as what you're saying that, certain faiths don't have it. Then call yourself, something that's fascism or autocratic or authoritarian, where you just want one particular group to take over another. Your laws do not have that. Your laws are not even in line with Christianity.
Your laws do not have it. Your laws... Honey, aren't you British? Aren't they your laws as well? Why don't you say our laws? Why are you saying to these two people, your laws? Is that a slip of the tongue there? Where your laws, aka British laws, don't apply to you? I think you've just done a major Freudian slip there. You've done it quite a few times, but I've not I've let it go, but yeah, I'm gonna call you out on that one, and I'm gonna call you out on the fact you said there's no extremism. There's tons of slips here. So your laws, your laws, your laws. I thought you're British, so it's our laws, not your laws. So they only apply to these two other people, not you. Okay. Okay. I understand now what laws you follow. Does it begin with an S?
If you look at whether Britain even is a Christian country, look at what it really actually looks like to be in a Christian country, like the Vatican City, like Poland, where most people actually adhere.
Because Poland, like, she's just digging herself into a grave here now. Poland looks like a Christian country because they have let absolutely no immigration from Islamic countries. I'm only stating facts here. I'm only stating facts. The Vatican, come on, like, not many people live in the Vatican. It's filled with bishops and stuff like that, and the Pope. Like, it's going to be really hard to get a house at the Vatican. Ridiculous. Yeah, we're all just going to, like, start buying property, you know, in the Vatican. And like you said, Poland does not allow migration in from Islamic countries. Our country has bent over backwards. To try and make other faiths or whatever feel welcome. So if they choose to, like, rescind certain laws and that to make and then other faiths get into politics and they'll add, like, they can change things by being in politics. So how dare you turn around and say, like, that this isn't a Christian country because of the way it's ran, when it isn't the Christian population's fault that it's like this. We would love to be like Poland and the Vatican City, but our leaders never gave us the choice. They never gave us the choice. If we wanted 1 million people to come into this country last year, no British people got the choice of that. It just got put upon us. We chose to vote for Brexit to take control of our borders. And so far, what we had, like 100,000 illegal migrants coming in boats so far this year. Do you think that we want that? No, we don't want that. We don't know who these people are. So how dare you again?
To it, they don't have laws of, against blasphemy or marriage or even the assisted dying, because that's all against Christianity. So at the end of the day, when you want to talk about it, let's talk about it in real terms.
But they're trying to bring in laws in Britain. You're meant to be a political commentator. Recently in Parliament, they were asked if basically it's like blasphemy laws through the back door. If people can basically be charged for saying things about, like, burning the Quran or whatever, or saying things about the Prophet Muhammad, or... So they are trying to do that. Just utterly, like...
Don't confuse things just because you want to,
What's it called in Islam, like, when you're lying? It's like taqiyya. She's taqiyyan. Instead of gaslighting us, she's taqiyyan us.
Guideline and just put across one particular group, which is, again, like you said, a minority, but it scares you the most because we are actually, people that have a faith that...
It scares us the most, okay? We're not scared of Muslim, like, oh my God, she doesn't get it. She doesn't get it. It scares people the most, okay? Okay? Because the most amount of attacks, the top 10 terror groups, they could probably say, like, top 20, are from I don't know. You know what religion it's from? From the Islamic religion. The reason Poland has never had a terror attack and is able to be a Christian country is because they do not let anyone in their country from Islamic countries. They don't. They're banned. Do I think that's right? No, I don't think you should blame everybody for, like, what, some like nutters do. But whatever they're doing seems to be working because they've never had a terrorist attack. They've never had a bomb going on. They've never had a suicide bomb. They've never had any of that. So, yeah, people are going to have somewhat of a fear of it. Because there is extremists and there's religion, but like you said, there isn't. So you're saying it's just people like choosing like to do it. Like I don't know, choosing your own words against it.
We do follow. And yes, the Pakistani community is the majority. It does not represent all Muslims, and there are variations of it. But majority of them themselves, they are law-abiding citizens within the community. You go into Finchley Road, you go into certain areas, there is only Jews that have their own, kosher.
Oh, like, where's my bingo card? Like, scratch a big cross on the bingo card. I was wondering when the Jews would be brought into it, because you can never have a conversation without blaming something on the Jews.
They have their own policing, they have their own councils, they have everything.
Because they need that.
There is no uproar and there's no outrage, about anything. It's just only when it comes to the Muslim community. We need some.
Maybe because they need it. Maybe because they need it. I've never seen. It doesn't matter.
Someone to blame for whether it is any problem, any crime, any sort of discernment.
No.
Yes, it's
not blaming. Like, we know that there's criminals of all religions and ethnicities in Britain. We know that. But this country, but you're just gaslighting here that it's as if like she cannot take any responsibility for what her community has ever done, or her religion, whereas like Christians are like can take example, the guy who attacked the mosque in, was it Canada? That was reprehensible. I don't know if he would claim to be a Christian, but if he did, yeah, absolutely condemn that guy. I think he's a evil piece of shit. And that was disgusting what he did. But this woman cannot even seem to manage to do that. So it's like always someone else's fault. And she even had the audacity to like bring the no, who even mentioned the Jews. We never even brought the Jews, but they always have to get brought into it.
Easy to have a target of a Muslim when actually you go into your NHS, you go into majority of professionals, they do actually have a high sort of, collaboration when it comes to, or sort of like contribution to this country. Majority of the London itself is owned by Qatar Muslims.
What? Did she just say there that the majority of London is owned by Muslims? So London isn't even, it's owned by Qatar. Like, what? Shouldn't, like, sovereign British land be owned by the British, not... So she said that there, most of London is owned by Muslims. And then she's got the audacity to say, you go into London and a small like Jewish community's got security on their synagogues or whatever. I wonder why. Like, now that makes perfect sense to me. And now it makes perfect sense to me as to, like... It's why Sadiq Khan's there. Why the pro-Palin marches never seem to get the same treatment, even though they're more violent and hateful than any other marches. While we have that Iranian, what's it, Al-Quds Day, to celebrate, like, and we have the Iranian guard that should be designated bloody terrorists that literally tried to kill Iranians that have fled that country in Britain. I cannot believe that. That most of London is owned by Muslims. That's terrifying. That should not be the case. That is shocking to me. Not terrifying, sorry, I didn't mean to say that. It's shocking. That's meant to be the United Kingdom's capital city, and it's owned by a foreign Muslim country. That's what she just said, not me. And she's the one who's she's meant to be the professional political commentator, because she's the one on the news, not me. So I don't think she's lying there. This feels a bit like a gloat, if you ask me, but yeah, the capital of the United Kingdom should not be owned. I don't care if it's a Muslim country or even another Christian country. Should not be owned by any. I don't care if it's like Canada, for example, or France or Germany. I don't care. The capital of the United Kingdom should not be owned by another country. This is Britain. This is disgraceful. Our politicians have literally sold the capital city to another.
Majority of people that are even against Islam will go and even live in Dubai, a Muslim country. Why not Europe? Why not anywhere else? You know, at the end.
Majority of people that's against Islam will go and live in Dubai. Well, we'll just turn your argument round to you. Majority, like, Muslim people will come and live in Britain who are against Christianity and Jews and other religions like Hindus and stuff like that. Will come and live in Britain. Why don't they go and live somewhere else? Why come to a Christian country and if you hate it? And I would say the same to anybody that hates Islam. Like, yeah, why go to an Islamic country and live there if you can't, you're not keen on that religion and living under Sharia? I wouldn't live under Sharia. I wouldn't want to live under, not because like I hate it or anything, it's just that it's not for me. But she's saying there are people that, like, yeah, I'm using her argument, I'm turning it around against her. You've used your laws, you've admitted that there's no extremism in religion, okay? You've admitted that the capital city of Britain is owned by Muslims. And you're now complaining that people that don't like Islam, they're moving to Dubai. And I know what your argument is here. Why they, like, my argument against you is, like, there's plenty of people I've seen carrying the Sharia, you change, like, you can into Sharia and stuff like that, and calling for the destruction of Britain. Why are they living here?
Today, we are not a sort of, culture or religion which is not cohesive, which is not of understanding, and we're not of same values. It's only people that want to create divide and hate. That's when they will talk in that kind of rhetoric and propaganda. When actually, if you talk about the faith itself, it has similar values, similar ways, and it's definitely in line with British culture. You want to call about certain individuals? Well,
No. That's not true. And you know that's not true. You know that's not true. She knows, trust me, this woman's well versed in the Quran and hadiths and stuff like that. That's not true at all, and she knows that. And you can even go and if you speak to any Muslim, if you say to them, what would you put first? Like Islam, like, or your country, or whatever. And they'll say like Islam, which is understandable. A lot of Christians would probably say the same, but what she's saying here, is like counteracting. Like, so she's being dishonest here.
Can do the same on this, for example, extremism when it comes to the white supremacists or the far right or anything like that. And
You've packed an awful lot in there, so we've packed a lot in there. So I want to give Rafe a chance.
She's never stopped speaking. Like, honest to God, let Rafe speak. This woman's just muttering on like loads of nonsense. Like, not even nonsense. She's so many slips of the tongue. Like, that's why I was like, oh yeah, let her speak, let her drone on it. She's digging herself into a bigger hole.
To respond. Rafe, let's just see if you could just tackle the core of that head on. Fahima's characterization of Britain as not being a Christian country, and arguing that Islam is compatible with British democratic culture.
No.
Well, the simple reality is Britain is a Christian country. We have an established church. We have an official national church in the Church of England and in the Church of Scotland. The King, of course, is supreme governor of the Church of England and defender of the faith. The sovereign is crowned in a Christian ceremony by the Archbishop. He is anointed as a sacrament, akin to joining the priesthood with holy oil. We are, along with Iran and Britain are the only two countries to have clerics in their legislature. We have archbishops in the House of Lords. We are fundamentally a Christian country, and it goes far beyond that, of course, because even if you are an atheist today, if you are a secular liberal Democrat voting atheist, you are going to be somebody who supports the idea of universal human rights, for example. Well, that is a fundamentally Christian concept, the whole idea of the ultimate inherent dignity of the individual. You don't find that in Islamic cultures. You don't find that in fact, in non-Christian cultures. These developed in the Christian concept. And indeed, the success of the West has been due in many ways to its fundamental Christian precepts. Our very worldview, the way we perceive the world, the way our institutions perceive the world, the way our government and our politicians see the world is fundamentally rooted in Christianity. And that's why the perception of a Muslim politician in Pakistan will be different to the perception of a British politician in this country. And that's the crux of the issue. The Christian world, and now increasingly the developed world, views the world far differently than you would get in the Islamic world, as we can see quite clearly from the politics that happens in those places. And look, no one is saying at all, of course, that all Muslims are bad at all, and Islam is not compatible. But there is a very significant problem here that we're afraid to address for fear of being accused of being Islamophobic. I'm afraid the reality is you have 52% of Muslims in this country believe homosexuality should be illegal. It's only 5% in the broader population. 62% want to suppress free speech to stop causing offense to religions. 1/3 of young British Muslims, 16 to 24, believe you should be put to death for apostasy, for leaving the faith. Britain is now the global center of honor killings, of acid attacks rather, but we have honor killings, forced marriage, cousin marriage, child marriage, polygamy. These are all things people are afraid to address because of the issue of Islamophobia. That's not being practiced by the entire Muslim population.
And all of those things, yeah, like you're saying, isn't being practiced by the entire Muslim community in Britain. But it has been practiced, and like it's all totally, that's all totally incompatible, but by Christian standards and by Western democracy standards. So to say that it's compatible when you have like honor killings, female genital mutilation going on, you can be your hand can be chopped off for stealing. You all know like the stuff. You can be beheaded, killed for just leaving their religion. There's just so you're even lashed in the street. If you say something wrong, if you're not wearing your hijab properly, you get 50 lashes. That's whipped in the back. So how is that compatible with the British way of life? It's not.
But it's very sizable. And always remember, there are 400,000 Muslims in this country, between 350,000 and 400 who identify as being extremists and support terrorism. There are 40,000 jihadis on the terror watch list of MI5.
400,000 are identify as extremists and support terrorism, and 40,000 of them are identify as being jihadis that want to go and do all that jihadi nonsense, like the crap ISIS do, and Al Qaeda and the Taliban.
1 in every 100 Muslims is on the jihadi terror watch list. That's only going to grow exponentially as the Muslim population increases to perhaps under 20% by 2025. So potentially you will have a number of people on the jihadi watch list that's larger than the British Army. The number of people on the jihadi watch list is already larger than the number of Hamas fighters on October the 7th, larger than the size of the ISIS army in Iraq in 2014. These are real issues and real challenges we need to face, not to mention that 40% of the mosques in this country are run by the extremist Deobandi cult, which is what gave birth to the Taliban, and the majority of the prison chaplains who are Muslim in this country belong to this same extremist Deobandi sect. Those are the challenges of Islam that we need to face, and that is in no way a criticism of the well-adjusted Muslims who are an integrated and important part of British society.
Of course, he's right.
Fahima, isn't what Rafe has just described there, in your opinion, a problem for democracy? If you think that democracy ought to be inclusive of everyone, how can a democracy sustain itself against?
How can a democracy be inclusive of everyone under, just going by the statistics of Islam, when they think that people should be put to death for leaving the religion, where they want to arrest people for being gay? That's not democracy, that's tyranny.
Those who, whose cultural or religious beliefs are anti-democratic.
Make it clear. I'm not, and like Rafe has just said, there's hundreds of thousands of amazing Muslims in this country, like Lubna, the channel I told you about earlier. Amazing Muslims, and she is a brave Muslim woman, honest to God, she's so bloody brave, so brave. All she done, she never even criticised Islam, nothing, she done nothing, but call out the bad apples regarding the rape gangs that were happening. And what happened to her? Her own community threatened to murder her. She came on camera literally crying and terrified, saying goodbye to her subscribers. She'd amassed hundreds of thousands of subscribers. She'd amassed tens of thousands of subscribers, was just nearly hitting her 100,000 mark. Her son was looking forward to her getting her plaque. She's building her channel, and she brought people of all different faiths and ethnicities and political persuasions on her channel. She didn't, she took everyone's opinion. She never once denounced her own religion. She never mocked it. She never critiqued it. She never did anything like that. And they turned on her. And now she's living and hiding because they found out her address and told her they were coming to kill her. She had to get the police involved. The GoFundMe was set up because she had to be moved that day to a new home. And she's a single mum. So she obviously didn't have the money to do it on her own. So the Christian community of all people, because I know the people that helped her. It was Apostate Prophets community. He's a Christian. Dr. David Wood, Christian. a few guys from the Christian community at Speaker's Corner that elevated her video to their hundreds of thousands of subscribers and asked them, and they done it as well, to go and donate to a GoFundMe that she'd created that had only amassed like maybe it wasn't much at all. She said she needed £1,000 and it was going to take a bit of time. The guys then gave her spoke about her situation, and within an hour it went up to £7,000. I don't know if it's still going. I don't know. I just know like on that day that she was really upset and terrified that the Christian community, because I'm a member of it, like I'm subscribed to many of their channels. Like, not that I'm a Christian channel myself. I'm just saying, like, I'm subscribed to many of their channels and I watch a lot of their content. I saw every one of them. Speak about her GoFundMe, ask their subscribers to go and help her, because these guys also, they're not only like they also speak out, and they go through like verses of the Quran and they speak out about that and stuff like that. So they knew how much danger she was in, because they constantly get death threats themselves. So they asked them themselves, contributed, as well as like their subscribers, and it was literally within an hour of just 2 channels. But then I saw later more channels come out, but it was like 2 hours, an hour later or so, after just 2 channels coming out, she had like £7,000. She must have ended up with like tens of thousands, if like £8. I'm not sure. I cannot say that for sure, but after an hour getting £7,000, you know, and then other channels were like helping her, she would have got a lot more. I know these channels. When one of them was threatened with his life, apostate prophet, for being an apostate. His name's Rizvan, and he's Turkish, lived in Germany. He got a death threat, saying they were going to jihad him, basically. His blood was haram. That's what they were saying to him, meaning that he was to be beheaded. And they were making these. It was so disturbing what happened. Subscribers of David Wood and the Christian community at the time raised money for him to get a security system, and they raised $100,000 within a day or two. I think it was in a day, to be honest. He's now since on his journey out to convert to Christianity, but at the time he was an atheist. So it was the Christian community that came round to like help him out, as they did with this Muslim mother. Our own community didn't help her. They didn't help her. They threatened to end her life. It was disgusting.
Or do conflict with the values that you yourself are professing?
Well, when it comes to blasphemy laws and things like that, we have to understand, and the things that Raif has just mentioned, they're all Christian beliefs. It's not just Islamic beliefs. It's just that Christianity, was once a Christian country, and it was defined by the shape.
We evolved. See, Christianity evolves. This is why, like, you'll see things in the Old Testament, and then in the New Testament, which is the New Covenant with Jesus. So Christianity has evolved, Whereas like things like stoning and stuff like that used to be a thing in Christianity. We cannot deny it, but when Jesus, when there was a woman going to be stoned, Jesus said, "He is without sin, cast the first stone," and nobody could cast the stone because like everybody sins. So it stopped because it's barbaric. She's just, honestly, I'm actually getting sick of watching her now. She's just totally gaslighting the hell out of us. Oh, we're not a Christian country. Let's just explain to her why we are a Christian country. It's like she's listened to nothing that he said. Sat there smug smiling, you know.
Shaped the laws and crowned monarchs and controlled education and punished those who strayed from doctrines and things like that. And the kings ruled by divine right, but people could be jailed or executed for blasphemy. And obviously, think of Reformation when King Henry VIII made himself head of the King of Church, not out of spiritual awakening, but to consolidate political power. And that pivotal moment blurred the lines between religion and state. So whatever you're saying was actually there. It's not just Islam, it's actually Christianity. And then later came the real change of Enlightenment and scientific revolution, which challenged Christians' monopoly on truth. And then
Exactly. It came Enlightenment. Where's the Enlightenment in Islam? It's not happened yet. So we've changed. Whereas Islam hasn't. It's still back in the 4th century.
Industrial Revolution, where it was more urbanization, shifting people away from parish life and closer to modern secular thinking. So that's what we have right now. It's not Christianity, it's secular and more sort of like, pluralistic sort of rulings and legislation. And the real turning point in the 20th century was after the 2 world wars, including the Church of England, which declined a lot. And it came with a wave of legal reforms like abortion, legalized in 1960, homosexuality, decriminalized in 1967, blasphemy laws abolished in 2008, same-sex marriage legalized in 2014. These weren't Christian-led.
She does realise, there is a separation of church and state. She does realise that, doesn't she? The church doesn't make the laws of the land. It's like, oh my God.
Reforms, they were won by secular campaigns in defiance of traditional Christian teachings. Now, when it comes to, meanwhile in Britain becoming more diverse, religious, ethically, culturally, multiculturalism has always existed with, since the time where whether it was Britain colonizing or they brought people over here to help them build and have some sort of way in which after the Second World War, even fighting even in the Second World War. That's why we have such a national fabric, whereas Christians may think that they dominate when actually the Equals Opportunity Act as well has said there's no real sort of religion that actually rules, or none. It's everyone is seen to be equal. So today, Britain is a secular democracy with Christian heritage and not a Christian.
It's annoying me that this presenter isn't saying it because she's getting about 50 different gaslighting statements in there, and some of it isn't even right, and the presenter's just letting her sit there muttering away. Yeah, granted, she's digging her a grave deeper and deeper at certain points, but let Rafe speak. He's a historian here. He's literally went to university and stuff and got a bloody degree and all this. I don't want to sit here. This is now not a debate. It's now sitting here listening to a monologue by this woman. When are you going to let Rafe speak?
Country in law and in values or lived experience. And the distinction needs to be said when it comes to that. And at the end of the day, when you're talking about all these research and about the watch list and things like that. Like I said, there's even a huge amount more where it's the far right that has been reported to prevent than anywhere else.
Fahima, let's put this.
When it comes to research and when it comes to sort of,
she's utterly lying. And you go and look at the terror watch list, you'll see that the most pressing threat on this country is Islamic terrorism. She's lying there, saying it's the far right. It's not true. And she won't shut up.
numbers. If you want to put a
Stop
sort of like,
talking.
a magnifying glass on one particular group, it's going to sound and scare everyone so that we are
Fahima,
the
let's
I'm sorry,
let's
can I
put
just-
this away.
Just in
Fahima,
there's a
I was
point on the
presenter, honestly, I'd be like, shut up! Like, this is meant to be a debate. You're now taking over as if this is a one-woman show. Like, that if only people, if all I wanted to do is just come here and listen to your opinion, I'd click onto like a Dawa channel. I don't. I want to hear what Rafe has to say. I want to hear what he has to say. Since it's meant to be a debate, shut up!
Fahima, let's just put
As a
this.
point of
Let's just put this to
information, if I
Rafe
can just
because
say-
Rafe.
If I could just make one point of clarification, 90% of the people on the terror watch list are Muslim.
Exactly,
90%.
Rafe.
Right? This is not about equals. The far right is a minnow, is a molehill compared to the Islamist mountain.
Rafe, you're a historian. What do you make of Fahima's historical account there? She took us through the full
Rubbish.
sweep almost of British history. What do you make of that?
Well, I would say the fundamental point, of course, is that yes, Christianity did have a reformation. We did go through the Enlightenment too. And the fact is, Islam hasn't done that. And that's where a lot of this comes down to. Because,
Exactly.
of course,
What I said.
the idea of a lot of extremists is, of course, to create a caliphate and to introduce Sharia law, essentially to go back to 8th century Islam when everything was perfect. And that was the ideal. And nothing is able to actually surpass what Islam had achieved in the 8th century or whatever. And until Islam can have its reformation and can actually benefit from the Enlightenment and go through those stages, as we did hundreds of years ago, Islam is not going to be, in my view,
Exactly. This woman here is making out it just recently happened. You're in the industrial. It happened hundreds of years ago. That's why it's great to have a historian on who actually knows the facts.
religion that is able to embrace the principles and the compassion and the tolerance that Christianity has. And of course, let's remember, it was the Christian evangelical movement of the 19th century that led the cause for the abolition of slavery, for example.
Yeah.
It was slavery is universal. It was the first time.
He's absolutely right. Slavery was disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And it was like the Christian movement that helped abolish that. It absolutely did. Slavery was still happening on Facebook in the 90s. You can go and look this up. You can Google it. There were still posts on Facebook in the 90s advertising African slaves for sale in places like Saudi Arabia. African, like, families of them. This is the 90s. There's still slavery going on right now in the Middle East and in North Africa and stuff like that. So, I don't know why she's sitting there grinning. You know, there's nothing ever good about slavery. She's sitting there with a smug grin on her face when it took like still in the 90s we were still seeing it happening, and we still know it's happening in Muslim countries. Case in point, like what ISIS did in Syria. With the Yazidi people. Killed them and took the women as sex slaves. And under Islam and the Quran, it says that you can, under a war situation, take the females as sex slaves if they're not Muslim.
In human history, that as a society had decided to make itself deliberately poorer in order to advance a moral good, enforcing an end to the slave trade on the seas, for example, with the West Africa Squadron. And it was the Christian evangelical movement just a couple of miles from where I'm sitting here.
Why is she grinning about this? It's absolutely making me angry.
happen where these chaps, that was unique to Britain and to the Protestant countries, it has to be said. And that also, you see that in terms of colonization, of course, you had people going around with the imperialists, but then you also had Christians who were there to do good deeds, for example. And those values that we regard as being intrinsically British and Western are all rooted in the Bible. Empathy, compassion, tolerance, freedom, equality. And those were values that we actually exported around the world. So places like Japan now have those values because they were part of Christianity's global reach. Now, look, my argument is that Britain is a Christian country. That's very different from saying Britain is a religious country. I would be defying the statistics if I was to say that Britain is overwhelmingly religious and that the indigenous population are at the church all the time. My point is that all of our worldviews have been shaped by Christianity if you were brought up in Britain and the West. That's why you have even dedicated atheists like Richard Dawkins now saying that he is a cultural Christian. He cannot escape his heritage and the way he brought up. It is the gift to the world of Christianity that it was able to develop in the West, the most advanced and the most unique civilization in the world, a civilization that has had unparalleled good and fundamentally created the modern world, and we should all be grateful for that.
Rafe, can I put just one point of Fahima's to you specifically, just to get your view on whether you think it's historically accurate to say that we were ruled by the divine right of kings? Because my understanding of British history is actually that constitutionally speaking, we were quite unique, and that Christianity itself, unlike Islam, does carve out this space that became secularism. We might call it secularity. But that is something that is actually uniquely Christian. And because it's become so much a part of a sort of de-Christianized atmosphere, perhaps people don't recognize that that is actually something that is uniquely part of our Christian history.
Well, the divine right is part of our is that what you're saying?
That in the British Constitution, I'm thinking Fortescue, for example, that we didn't have the absolute rule that the French had, that there was that our Constitution developed in a particular way that perhaps maybe many people don't necessarily realise that is something that has its roots in English Christianity.
Yeah, that's very right. Yeah, so I mean, the whole principle of the English monarchy, of course, was of the rule by consent from the Witenagemot, which were the group of noblemen who would essentially bring together to decide on who would be the sovereign. Later on, that we got the.
She's peeved off. She's pissed off that she's just being schooled here. Sorry, love, but. Like, you're sitting there like you're spitting out facts with a historian. she's so angry.
Notion of the divine right of kings, but the key element of all of that, of course, is that it's about a covenant, and this goes back to the New Testament and to the kings of Israel. And the idea is that there is a covenant between God, between the people, and between the sovereign, and each promises, in essence, to do what they can to support the other. And that unique nature of the covenant, which is fundamentally Judeo-Christian, is unique to European monarchies, and has placed upon the monarch that very Christian notion of having an intrinsic duty to look after their peoples and to improve their lot and improve their lives, and not to essentially be in it simply for themselves. And that's, I think, something which is very special to Christian monarchies.
Fahima, would you say, listening to what Rafe has said there, that actually Britain does have something more than just multiculturalism, more than just pure tolerance for people to integrate into, that actually there is a historical background there that is distinctively Christian, and that's something that should be respected by people, particularly who are in public office and are participating actively as representatives in our democracy?
Yes.
You know what? When it comes to modern British values, they're mainly post-Christian. Tolerance, equality, freedom of belief. These are, they're not uniquely Christian. These are values found in many faiths and in none Okay, you can deny and shake your head on that. You don't know the Quran. You only know of the ones that, pick on certain
How dare she? You can deny and shake your head on that. You do not know the Quran. She doesn't know if Rafe has studied the Quran and the Hadiths. What does she think like that? Because like you're not a Muslim, that then you don't know, you can't read up and learn about that religion. That is insulting. That is so insulting.
things, which we can do the same on the Bible, the Torah, and the actual Quran on certain things, which are
You don't know the Quran, but I'm sitting here with the Bible, and I'm telling you that Britain's not a Christian country. There's not Christian about Britain, like so. That's so disrespectful. That's so. Yeah, we in the Quran. It does. There is like really not so nice passages that basically see Christians and Jews, etc., as like they call as creatures were lower than cows and dogs and stuff. We're not particularly bright and stuff. So of course we're not gonna, in her view, because like you even heard her earlier saying your laws. In her view, the simple historian and presenter here, these simple Christians aren't going to know like the Quran. They're not going to know like anything about the Bible and stuff. She knows it all. Like what a narcissistic oh my god, supremacist attitude this woman has. Like my god.
are quite extreme, and there are cultural beliefs and the way in which society lives, which is nothing to do with the religion itself. We have laws in this country and values and the tolerance which we are all abiding by. Yes, in every crate you're going to find some rotten apples, and you're going to obviously exacerbate them, certain groups to make it like as if they're the worst ones and we're the minorities that are actually causing the problems, when actually it's the complete opposite. Because if you were to
call out the bad ones. Saying, yeah, we've got some. Yeah, that's the first time I've ever heard you criticise anything. Before it was like, we don't have extremism, we don't have this, we don't. That's the first thing you've said. But you've criticised everything else, and then even had the audacity to say, hell, this race here. That he doesn't know the Quran. When you don't know, like, you don't know if he's studied it or not. You don't know if he's read it. Like people, we have a thing. The Quran is in English. We have a thing in Britain. You do know that we're called school, where we're taught to read and write, so we can open something up called a book and read the actual words. And this is the thing that my problem, like, it's such a supremacist, in my view, some people from this religion are so supremacist. It's unbelievable, and that just proved it there, where she just said that. That's so offensive, and yeah, it's unbelievable.
Think about even the minorities that bring so much to this country in such a small amount. That'll be something that no one.
I don't know if she's noticed this here, but Rafe's not exactly what you would call an indigenous British person. Like, so a white British person. He's not. Rafe Mancoop is not. So she's sitting there acting like, yeah, yeah. No one's disputed that other cultures have brought things that have bettered British society. No one has. She's like sitting there talking to Rafe as though like he's actually like, oh She's not even. She's unbelievable. This
wants to
woman.
talk about, whether it comes to the actual, like I said, the contribution and the actual living every day amongst our neighbors and actually having the same values as Christians to look after thy neighbors. Even it's so unchristian the way in which the politics is run today when it comes to the hostile ways in which we look at immigration and wanting to see them as all criminals, and when it comes to the Pope and Christianity and priests that actually are completely opposing all of this. And yeah, even if you want to say culturally Christian or whatever it may be, that again, it's more ceremonial. When it comes to real values, and if you really understood religion, not just your own, and only want to do that, it actually encompasses all.
Oh, she's just so offensive. If you really understood religion. She's speaking to a guy who is very well educated here. Unbelievable, this woman.
Faiths with the same values, regardless of even if people and some do not follow, they are dealt with. We are in a country with a justice system, which again, even within my faith, we have to follow the law of the land, and the one that doesn't, they have to be punished accordingly, and they are. And there's no two-tier system here, because I see just as much
Rubbish.
going on from the left or the right when it comes to the actual justice system, when it comes to putting people in their places, arresting, and whatever it may be. And we also have to adjust it with case-by-case studies when it comes to that. But I just feel, again, there is just a huge kind of uproar and outrage when it comes to people that are showing their own diversity of their own identities in line with British values. And again, speaking a different language, looking slightly different, having certain things that may not be for everyone, but also, talking to certain communities, which is part of their constituents, like a Polish would, like a Scottish or a Welsh would, then again, it's no problem. But only because it's Muslims, and they cannot.
She just brought it up again, like a Scottish or a Welsh would, but when it's like the Scottish and the Welsh, like being Muslim is not an ethnicity. It's not. You can be a Muslim and be white. You can be a Muslim, be black. You can be a Muslim, be brown. You can be a Muslim, be Asian. You're lumping in Scottish Welsh people with Muslims. We're not a religion. The Scottish people aren't a religion. The Welsh people aren't a religion, love. We're an ethnicity. We're Scottish ethnicity. We've been on this land for over 1,000 years. We've not just got here. We helped build this land. We're not. I can't believe she's even doing this. Like, the Scottish people and the Welsh people, I can't believe you just keep mentioning them. And even, I know you've, threw Polish people in there as well. But the Polish people are a Polish ethnicity, European ethnicity. The Scottish are Scottish, Welsh. Like, that's our ethnicity. We can't change that. We're not you can change your religion. You can choose to change from being Christian to change to become Muslim. You can change from becoming a Muslim, although it's extremely dangerous, to becoming an apostate and being Christian. You can change that. I can't change the fact that I'm Scottish. I can't. So I'm not. As a Scottish person, a religion. She's so offensive.
Come here and actually say that they want to rule or invade, or no one's trying.
Scottish people and Welsh people haven't done either. She's Scottish and Welsh come here and say they want to. We didn't just spring up out of nowhere. Aliens just didn't magically drop the Scottish and the Welsh off a few decades ago, and just we just take us to your leader. No, I've been here for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. This is our land too. It's all connected. This bit of land, Great Britain, it's all connected. There isn't a massive sea between Wales and England and Scotland and England. It's connected. You're making it as if we are foreigners, and you've lumped us in with being Scottish and being Welsh is like being Muslim, when it's not like that. We're not a religion, we're Scottish. Oh, she's angering me now.
To do that. We are just trying to live in line. We have the same opportunities, the same rules, the same sort of like ways in which of getting our education and you know.
We also like helped build like I feel like I'm going around in circles and reshape, help build the laws. So we created, the Scottish people created so much of the industrial and technical marvels of this modern world. It is unbelievable. I've done a video on just what the Scots have invented. It is unbelievable that this tiny party Great Britain has created so much with just 6 million people. This woman's acting like we just sprung up out of nowhere. Like we've like been flown in but from a UFO from Mars or something. Waddled down to to London or something, and like yeah, and then she's like treating us like we're a religion.
Developing ourselves and having the same opportunities. There's no such thing as we are taking over or doing certain things out of line. It's just that if certain people are able, like a Muslim woman, to be in a council and be a member and actually have the education and do it the correct way, what is the problem with that? There should be more British people then that are actually taking on these opportunities. Why are they not educating themselves? Why are they not going into higher education? Why are they not taking those positions? They are huge in numbers. They're huge in the same opportunities and values. Maybe that's what you need to address, not the ones that come here and try to abide and live in the same way. We are all doing exactly the same thing and we have the same opportunities. If other people rise and shine and do something better and do the exact same thing, and they are in power or position, they are not there to take over. They're doing it in exactly the same way as anybody else would. So again, that is
no. Again, no. You've got people like in the Welsh government, Scottish government, English, whatever. You've got people of different ethnicities in these places. They don't pledge allegiance to another country as well as theirs, as well as like Britain, and they don't like start doing messages in languages where a lot of an amount of their constituency don't understand. And again, like, why are we letting this woman twaddle on for so long? Like, I thought it was meant to be a debate.
Problem for me to see it in the way that you see it, but not the way that everyone else would see it.
A final word to you, Rafe.
Finally.
Well, I would say for the third time, this is not going to tag on the broader Muslim population, but what this is about is the increased sectarianism of British politics and the fact that the increasing rise of the Muslim vote, whether it be Muslim MPs or Muslim councillors, is enabling sectarianism, it's enabling division, it's enabling segregation. There is a reluctance to address or tackle the real challenges that I've already identified that exist within those communities. They are suppressed. That's one of the reasons we see the Labour Party, for example, so reluctant to have a national inquiry, trying to brush it under the carpet with these council-led inquiries, knowing that those councils, so beholden are they to the Muslim vote, won't actually do a proper investigation. And I'm afraid what we're going to see increasingly is an introduction of the politics of Pakistan to this country. More violence, more aggression, more intimidation. We saw it with the gangs of Muslims outside a Birmingham school, upset with the school curriculum there. We see it in attempts to pressure the Labour Party to pass a blasphemy law. We see it, of course, Britain is now the Western leader of Sharia law, and Britain sends out Sharia instructors to other countries right now. We're at a critical point in our history. The Muslim population is going to rise up to around 12 million potentially by 2050. 50, and we need to make sure that we have a policy which will enable us
Got
to integrate those
smugness in there.
communities and deal with the more radical elements, which are only going to become a greater and greater threat. We can't be afraid to discuss this. We mustn't be silenced. We mustn't be accused of Islamophobia for trying to address, arguably, I would say, the greatest challenge this country faces, and that's the rising presence of a fifth column which seeks to overthrow our institutions and our structures, or essentially just create a separate state within the United Kingdom.
I might add as well, let me zoom in here. She's also gone against her own religion, because in Islamic religion, you're not allowed to pluck your eyebrows. Or maybe she's got round it because I know that some Muslim women do, is because they're not allowed to pluck their eyebrows, they'll dye, like the outer parts blonde. So maybe she's done that. I'm not too sure. Could be concealer because she's wearing makeup. But she's got some shaped eyebrows there. And that's haram under your religion, aka not allowed. Just saying. Thank God though, that we'll see what this.
Thank you so much, Rafe Hadelmanku and Fahima Mohammed.
Thank you so much, Fahima, literally, just rabbited on, and the presenter shouldn't have let her do that. This was meant to be a debate. If I knew that this was basically going to be a monologue from Fahima, her name is, I think, I really wouldn't have watched this. I'm glad I did, because in a way we got some good slip-ups from her, but the fact that she tried to dominate, take over and gaslight, and she did tell some porky pies, was a bit annoying. And her sitting there with a smug smile on her face when Rafe was talking about the slavery and stuff like that. Just there's a time and a place, that's not when someone's addressing something like that, which was an important time. Don't sit with a smile on your face. Anyway, I'm gonna go, guys, because this took way longer than I thought. I love y'all, and I'll see you later.